I mean, I went more live.
Welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. We're live, and it's Tuesday, March 1st. It's the beginning of a new month. So, how's it going, everyone?
Well, as usual, I hope everyone else is. Let's see who we have in our chat today. Oops.
The countdown to April Fool's Day starts now.
Indeed it does, Tank.
Oh, is March some sort of lead up to that, I guess?
Well, we definitely had enough fool talk this morning.
None of which we want to mention on the air. Anyway,
are you sure?
Welcome, HCMIH Griffin. I don't remember seeing that name in here before. Futures Eric, welcome back. You're a regular. RTM Tech, Shuk, and Glenn, thank you for joining us as usual. Oh, and Nels, hey. Welcome everyone. You can join us
Shuk
live.
and Glenn.
Yes, Shuk and Glenn as well. You can join us online at foolishit.com/live or foolishtechshow.com. And there's a nice little IRC chat, so you can interact with us while we're broadcasting. Please, we love to keep the activity and the conversation up to keep us occupied. But if we do hear a little lull, we're going to go and do some regular tech talk, but we're primarily here to answer questions from our users and about our software and services and anything else you may have a question about. So please join us and ask away.
Indeed. Hey, Glenn, I have a question for you. Is this what people did in Australia for childhood fun, or do? Go after giant mud crabs for lunch?
I think we should we should do a follow-up on the discussion yesterday regarding when we or maybe I mentioned it, the SSD research that Google was behind. The endurance study. Remember, weren't we discussing that?
Yeah, I posted the link for it. Hey, guess what? Google watched our show yesterday, and they now sell the Google Cardboard in their store.
Nice.
They got a quick copy of us. And listen to us about the things that matter.
Yeah, it's true. You can get some pretty interesting versions from them, though. Here's the link to get it if you want to get one. They got them all colored and different styled. And
you didn't post the link. What are you talking about? I'll the SSD update link.
The what? Oh, for the SSD?
Yeah.
Well, what about this talk? What do you want to talk about it? Anything different than what we already talked about?
No, for the most part, but it's just a little bit more details on the Google backing of it. How, and a little bit more analysis on the data. I don't know.
This is Michael's rehashing week, apparently. Yesterday we spent a couple hours rehashing a problem that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the point goes that they've been. I think the point to take away from it is that they found it used to be very scary regards the reliability or other characteristics of SLC versus MLC versus TLC, the three different types of SSDs that are out there, the flash chips rather that are out there. And SLC being single level, and multi-level, which is 2 bits per cell, and TLC, which is 3 bits per cell. Now, it was always widely at least it was, I remember this being the case. It was always widely said that the more bits that you write, the less the endurance is going to be of those things. And that means that by definition, an SLC drive should last the longest, MLC should follow, and TLC should be at the tail end. But that's not what these results seem to indicate. Either meaning that advances in error recovery and correction and otherwise, greater controller design is keeping up on that, and maybe less of that work has gone into SLC. There's a lot of reasoning and explanations possibly that you could read into it, but it's just nice to see real world data for a subject that people sometimes believe we won't have real world data for many years to come, but that's not the case. We already have a lot of that data now, and we will continue to get more as time passes.
Yay, I think.
Wow.
Hey, Glenn, did you happen to go to this drag show in Perth? The Thunder 400. That video, the two motorcycle drag races ended up breaking their bikes and having to walk it all the way down the track to win. Glenn ordered his Raspberry Pi 3 today. So we had actually talked about it a lot, and Michael was all about ordering one right off the bat. And I was like, there was no reason to do it, and it looks like the only price you're going to get it is, yeah, I don't have any idea about geography. I'm American.
I love how John Oliver makes fun of that almost every week.
The only reason to get one is just to say I have a Raspberry Pi 3. It honestly doesn't offer that much performance increase, and having
50% performance increase, something like that.
Between 1 gigahertz and 1.2 gigahertz, how is that a 40% increase? I didn't understand that.
I would, but usually there's IPC improvements or other things. It's a newer ARM architecture, so I would think that there might be additional cache or something that would improve the ultimate, the instructions per clock.
Anyway, the biggest thing though is that it doesn't, like, when Pis first come out, as you've probably seen if you try to get a Raspberry Pi Zero, the quantities are extremely limited. If you're able to find one, you're probably going to be well overcharged to what their retail price is.
Listen, they should have been expecting this given the demand for the Zero and the Pi, and I find it to be a little bit irresponsible to launch a whole new product when you can't even deliver the orders for the Zeros that you have. Now, I hope they have plans to bring on additional manufacturing to correct the situation, but this is not like this is the first time this has happened for them. So I would have hoped that they would have been a little bit more prepared for this eventuality. And obviously, since they are the #1 supplier of these types of things, you'd think they're not going to imagine that their competitors are going to take away all their business, right?
Yeah, and you're right, Eric. Not all Americans are bad with geography. Geography teachers are extremely good at it. Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. RTM Tech is that it's normally better to get one of the older generations, or just wait until they've been out for a little while. The Pi 2s I know you can get for $35. Just if you want the whole setup, everything, it ends up running about 60 or 70. Which
the Pi 3 though is that you don't have to spend the extra money for those extra devices, and it's the same exact cost. And so I mean,
you have to still get a case. That's where about $20 to $30 comes in.
That's not going anywhere, but that hasn't changed, and that's equal amongst both. So I'm saying, there is a cost advantage to go in with the new one.
Yeah, and they did say it was $35, but the only place we found that had them in stock was for $58. And it looked
US dollars we're talking about.
Yeah, it looked like it did say that it included a power cord, but that's it. So
Oh, it does include, because the original didn't, and but that may be the case because it requires more than the original. They're looking at 2.5 amp for the charger, I believe, for the Pi 3 versus the recommended 2 amp
yeah.
for the Pi 2. So, take that into consideration. And again, depending upon what what Internet of Things project you may want to be doing with this, the extra power consumption, the extra pull of a Pi 3 may not be the best choice for battery life, if that's something that's important for all you makers out there.
Yeah, if you're able to get one for $55 AUD, then it's not that bad. But this is a Raspberry Pi on Amazon right now for $35, so you can get one very cheap still for a Raspberry Pi 2. They didn't even have Raspberry Pi 3s on Amazon, and I think they would have been shipping from England, so it would have taken a while. But if you want a whole kit for a Raspberry Pi 2, that's where you start getting into a little bit more, like this kit, which is $70. Futures Eric had a secretary who thought one of their coworkers was from Japan when they were from El Salvador. Yeah, and the kit is where you start getting into a little bit more, but really that gives you everything you need to get up and running quickly with it. You get the HDMI cable, which that can be an easy $5 to $10. The wireless card, which that can be easy $10. The SD card, which can be an easy $10, and then you get the heat sinks or noise suppression, which those are a couple dollars, and then the case is normally at least $10 from what I've been seeing to $20.
Excuse me, heatsink noise suppression. What are you referring to by that?
The little metal things. I've seen them called heatsink, and I've also seen them called noise suppression.
That doesn't seem they're heat sinks. They're not doing anything for noise. In fact,
it could be blocking noise from processor to your add-ons.
Okay, I'm pretty sure we can't hear the flow of electrons within a processor.
It's not you hearing anything. It's not a noise for you. It's noise for radio interference and electronic interference.
But still, they look like heat sinks.
You can't bust still nothing after that.
Yeah. They do look like heat sinks, but they're also made of metal. And I know you've been playing with SDR, so you know something about how radio interference works, and that metal blocks that. So.
Where are you supposed to put those, and why are they the shapes of the chips? And why does that have anything to do with?
They go on the chips, and they block the noise or interference coming from the chips. Possibly if you're putting SDR stuff on your
any type of medium will slow down the move of radio waves.
Yeah.
Okay, but what makes you think that radio waves? In other words, I can blast my FM radio against my CPU, but it's not going to affect my ability to overclock.
Michael,
I'm not really
your FM radio is a receiver. It doesn't transmit or output FM radio waves.
Well, I mean, but whatever the radio waves are they're coming from. Yes, I understand. But
we're up to that cartoon level almost.
Okay, all right. Sorry, but you do understand what I'm saying, right? You do know that a lightning storm or anything that's being transmitted, including my remote controls or my
remote controls are way above it.
Controls.
Well, whatever, but that's all radio interference. Okay, and you're suggesting that my chips, it would only be as if you
Michael,
were
I'm
using the
just
Pi
going
for
by
sound. It would only be it would only be relevant like on the sound circuitry or stuff like that on the card, I would think. Or I just, if somebody could back me up in the
Right,
chat
Eric.
with
Tell
this.
Michael to breathe. Breathe, Michael. Just breathe and stop talking.
Somebody could back me
Um,
up in the chat with this.
Futures Tech, Ian, it's right. They're very not expensive. Especially, I mean, the reason I got into it originally is just so I could have a cheap Linux server running around, not have to buy a full desktop or convert one of my laptops to be just a Linux server. And that's what my primary one is. It's just a Linux server that I use for dev testing and remoting in and things like that. They are very, very awesome though. Their price point is extremely cheap. There's so many things you can do with them, from emulators to media centers to, that sounds like an awesome project, Eric, having a Raspberry Pi strapped to a mini projector and infrared keyboard, so you can easily carry around a whole computer system you can access quickly. Yeah, and Glenn, that's probably the biggest concern for Michael, is the radio waves interference from the NSA van out in the street. RTM Tech lost his connection right about the time Michael lost his to reality. And Glenn says radio interference is not just a bit of static.
What did Michael say?
Michael said radio interference is a bit of static from...
No, I did not. No, I did not say that. That is not what I said. You know, I just don't understand. Okay, please again explain to me how RFI, radio interference, radio solar flares, anything I mean, yes, it could knock out your CPU, but it wouldn't turn on. I mean, so what are you protecting? As long as your Pi is powering up and operating, I think you're good to go. You don't need an RFI shield on it. I've never had an RFI shield on anything, and the only reason to put a piece of metal against those chips is simply to cool them off. If you had your SDR equipment attached to it, maybe something with that I could see, but that'd be about it. So I think it's just important for us to make sure we're talking. And heat sinks are important. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't. I wouldn't be so trustworthy of somebody offering them as noise suppressors for those chips. Remember, it's a piece of RAM, it's a piece of RAM, and it's the CPU. I mean, there's no transmitters, receivers, or anything else for radio with them. Just moving some electrons in a very small space.
Well, anyway, they are awesome products no matter what you put on them. If you get one of the cases with an active fan, or get the aluminum heat sinks, or whatever they want to call them. I was only going by what people on the internet had called them, interference.
We know people on the internets, like you like to call me, are stupid, right? So, don't always trust them. Yes, EMPs work much better. Thank you, RTM Tech. And that's what you really want to use to shut something down.
Oh, and Glenn has days in his workshop that he can't even use his FM receiver, i.e. FM radio.
Yeah, and that's a concern. But
what's your question, Eric?
That had to do
so
with
that we can have Michael talk
please.
A little bit more relevantly.
Yeah, Eric, please get us on another topic. Oh, that's a good point, RTM Tech, from getting out, not in, as in if somebody was listening in to that. Now, there have been devices security that does that. cause concerns. We've noted that you can get decryption keys potentially by monitoring the actual hardware that's processing it. So
anyway, while we wait for the stream to catch up with Eric's and him to ask his question, there's a really interesting video about zebra versus horses, and it was talking about, in general, the domestication of animals, and why don't we see cowboys riding zebras across the wild, wild west? And apparently it's because zebras are just punks, basically, and horses have family values.
yes, you want sinusoidal waves in your UPSs. Square waves are not as good, I hear. If you're in the market for those, I actually had to buy one recently, and I kind of neglected to look at that point. And it's not that big of a deal overall, I suppose, but certainly you want it to match what would be coming out of your wall just much more reliably, not something that resembles what's coming out of the wall.
A zebra would be a pretty cool looking ride, though.
It would be. It would be very awesome. But apparently they bite and buck, and they're actually very good at ducking. So capturing one to begin with would be extremely difficult.
Okay.
A lot of things go down bad about it.
Eric has his question now. Let's see. I have a Lenovo workstation that after 2 weeks the blue screen start the 2 weeks the screen starts he says, quote, glitches out. Black bars, screen shakes, line streak down the screen before blue screening and rebooting. So that definitely, to me, sounds like overheating or, could be faulty graphics, but my guess is overheating.
What are the blue screen dumps saying? Are they just random?
Had Lenovo replace the hard drive, memory, and motherboard? I mean, again, is ventilation an issue? Do you have the temperatures? Can you tell us what temperatures you've monitored on it? On the processor specifically? Because these days the processor usually does the graphics as well, in the case of most laptops.
He said a workstation, so not a laptop.
Oh, Lenovo workstation? Oh, sorry. I was thinking it was a laptop.
I mean, if it was me and I was having screen issues, obviously the first thing would be the updating the graphics driver. Still having it, I would look at between replacing the graphic driver itself or the graphics card itself or possibly the screen. That case, I would probably be more leaning towards the
Are they the black bars? Yeah, he's just talking about changing your aspect ratio. Yeah, it's not widescreen. Yeah, PSU could be I agree with that, Glenn. The power supply could be the issue, and that's not something you mentioned replacing. That's a real good place to look. That's the weird issues. And
I would start with the video card since it's a video problem, it seems.
And okay, so he gave the temperature's relevant here too. 69 degrees Celsius and 79 degrees Celsius so far. Okay, so processors typically won't throttle or become impacted until usually
He's talking about a graphics card. Why do you keep going back to processing?
Okay, well, graphics card for 79 degrees Celsius. I mean, it's getting a little hot at that point. I definitely would think that's overheating is a problem. There's an issue with airflow because it should only be that under load for hours.
Michael, maybe we should get more details. Is it an external graphics card or is it a built-in graphics card? And then what kind is it? And things of that nature would probably help. Because if it's internal and they've replaced the motherboard,
it's on board. Yeah. It's on board, so it's the processor. Okay, so
no. If they've replaced the motherboard, though, that would replace the graphics card.
No, the graphics chip is embedded in the processor.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in the processor. Okay. So that's a little hot. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that it's the CPU, but you know the heatsink. If the heatsink has lost contact, it's going to cause it to run hotter. Now, if it's the 4600 series, that's, as I recall, pretty hot for those. If it was maybe a Skylake or something like that, a 6000 very very new series, they typically run hotter and actually can tolerate a little bit hotter. But the 4000 series should not be that hot unless it's like if this were a laptop. That's why I come back to that. If there was a very enclosed space, I could see, you know, the temperatures getting to that and then the fan spinning up and or throttling. But doing that in a desktop, especially after maybe a short period of time without long run under load, would definitely be the cause of this, and that would make result that would be responsible for all the symptoms you've described. I intimately watch temperatures and stuff like that because it is such a critical issue when I overclock. I overclock everything from my video card to, I mean, I'd overclock. I overclock everything. I'd overclock my toothbrush if I could. So that being said, you know, I need to make sure we can always push, you know, the button up on the voltage.
That
but
means I would probably listen to you less. After you say I would overclock my toothbrush.
I know. I was just sitting there thinking about what to comment on that.
I'm just like, well, I should probably not listen to anything you're going to say before or after that. Have you tried a different monitor too? And does it do the same thing?
I don't think a monitor problem would cause a blue screen.
Yeah.
It could cause video anomalies.
I think it's definitely an issue with the heat. So I would look at the heat sink if it's properly, you know, if you've got good thermal compound between it, that it's not only on a portion of it. Because remember the internal circuitry. If you look at the die the die of the Intel CPU, a large portion of it is the graphics, but it's actually on one side of the chip, and so you know, and so one side of the chip can get hotter than the other side, and if there's not good contact across the entire surface and the correct pressure across the entire surface, it could create a situation maybe like what you're seeing, which represents itself more graphically because that portion of the chip is heating up more. But most importantly, get the thing cooled down, and you can test this out really easily. Get some strong fans and blow it up against it and take the case off and let it breathe and monitor the temperatures. You should find a correlation between the symptoms you are having and the temperatures. Okay, so there's never going to be a case where it's just humming along just fine at 85 degrees Celsius and it crashes when it's 69 degrees Celsius. There's never going to be a situation like that, and you can match the two and two together. Now, again, the power supply, and I'm glad that Glenn's bringing it up, that should be looked at as well. I agree. If it turned,
it could be the issue.
You know, but it's might be the temperatures seem to me to be a little bit on the edge there, and between those two things, I 100% chance you'll figure it out between the power supply and the heating.
They do have a really weird heatsink in that case.
Let me see. Thank you, Brantley.
It is funky.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I mean, that's just styrofoam padding around it. That's not. But see, what I'm worried about, like, what if that's, you know, there's VRMs around the CPU on the motherboard, and if you, I like enthusiasts.
Replace the motherboard.
Well, no, I know that, but
Okay.
it's not. Is it a fundamental design flaw? Because like the VRMs on the enthusiast motherboards that I typically look at have heat sinks on them. Because because they usually can accommodate more beefier processors with higher, you know, wattage ratings and things like that, and so power regulation is very important to them, and so the circuitry is high-end circuitry, and it needs to be cooled, and it produces a lot of heat, and you'll typically see heat sinks. Now, it would seem to me that styrofoam would be, or that whatever that padding is there would be keeping that heat very close to the chips and creating a problem. Why is, I mean, I see for shipping, but shouldn't that be removed?
No, it looks like it's so it can pull in cool air easily.
Is it? Am I even looking at it right? It's hard to. Can I zoom in? I can't even zoom in.
Where's the hot air supposed to go?
Um, yeah, something.
I don't like the design at all.
I don't know a lot about uh, airflow and cases. I mean, it's not been my focus, but temperature has been my focus, and everything that I've read indicates that that would not produce a good. It would either make the processor too hot, it would make the VRM circuitry too hot. It's not allowing the hot air to flow, as Proctor mentioned.
I mean, you want to move cool air in the case and hot air out of the case. And I don't see any place for this to vent air.
But I mean,
unless it's venting it through the power supply, which you can't do that either.
Well, that's
there's a shroud around it.
Yeah.
It looks like the CPU's in a box. Well, unless it's is there a vent on the top of the case? Right above the CPU?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Glenn, for the support. Appreciate that. Glenn says he had this issue with the model of an Asus desktop. The fix was a different CPU cooler overheating in solitaire.
Failed the solitaire test.
Yeah, failed in solitaire benchmark. That's pretty bad. Oh no, he says to venting over the CPU. Yeah, cut some speed holes into that sucker while you're at it.
Well, Eric, again, if the case design and the heatsink design is not the problem because you've done it on, he says he's done it 15 to 20 of these machines, and at least 7 in the same site. So that would keep the environmental conditions pretty much the same. So it may not be that, but like I said, I still think the temperature, the processor temperature is an issue, and certainly the power supply. Lenovo has been known in some of their lower end machines to use cheap power supplies, but I don't recall a workstation model supposedly doing that. But it always can happen. The failure, 1 out of 100 or 1,000 or a pallet or whatever will go. But again, if it's possible to open it up and to put a fan on it and to try to monitor it for its stability, and do some temperature logging, there's a lot of tools out there that can do temperature logging quite easily. You probably have something included with your any BIOS monitoring, UEFI monitoring tool. Intel has Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, I think, will do that. Information, you can search to it on Intel's website, and it'll go directly to the processor and monitor that. I'm not sure what its logging facilities are for it, to tell you the truth, but there are, I know, tools out there that will do that. I used to use Core Temp. I don't know if anybody out there has any recommendations on temperature monitoring software. CPU-Z for is not so much for temperatures, but I love that for other statistics. But I think I think we can narrow it down. I mean, we can all guess and speculate, but taking the couple of steps that we, Glenn and I have suggested, I think will set you straight. I'm not going to repeat that, but.
Hey, for your Raspberry Pi projector thing, there's actually a good deal on 1,000 lumens, and it only does 800 by 600, but Raspberry Pi, that would be fine for $80 for a projector that's smaller than an iPad mini. So
that's cheap.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially if you're using it for like your bedroom or something like that.
Oh, did you guys see?
Yeah, I'd like to have a higher resolution, but I mean, for $90, that's a really good deal.
Let me see that. Ooh, projectors. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I saw something interesting, which I don't have need for, but I know many of you have children out there. You know, it's important to maybe censor the content that's available to them on the internet. And this company was trying to put out a visual search engine so that they could, you know, search more easily younger children. And it was supposed to obviously filter out and have extreme parental control and filter out bad words. But of course, you know, there have been reports of all sorts of things that have snuck by their, I guess, watchful eyes, as it were. So I thought that if any of you had done anything with this search, please be careful. And there's a lot of Steam games for Linux. I didn't realize there were this much. There's actually 1,900 games being offered by Steam for Linux. So those people out there who think that Linux will never be a gaming platform may want to take a look at that information. We're big Linux open source fans here. Obviously, the Pies run off of you know, Debian distribution. That's pretty cool. Let's see. And nothing else. What have we been doing in the tickets recently? Johnny Tank, any cool tickets come up recently?
That you felt they were competent enough to do?
I don't think so. I'm feeding a baby.
Oh.
I don't know, Michael.
I don't think so. You didn't let me do any tickets in the last month. You said I needed to take my medicine. I still don't know what medicine you're talking about, though.
This is look, this is not true. There was a case earlier this morning where I misheard a communication, and I nodded and said yes.
It was repeated several times.
And I nodded and tipped my head and said yes, and I was not actually hearing what was coming out of the mouth, and apparently
You didn't just nod your head, Michael. You said yes.
Okay, well, whatever.
It wasn't until we stopped him from talking and fully broke down the situation that he comprehended what he was saying and doing.
Even then, I thought he knew. I thought he comprehended and was still
like, yeah, sure.
I did. No, because again, that part I didn't hear. So she was telling a story at the time, and I was listening to I was trying to listen, and I was like, well, what's the punchline? What's the punchline? So I was going, yes, to get her to say where
I think
the story
it's more
was
of a
going.
complaint.
Yeah. Anyway, RTM Tech, it's not that there have been no tickets in the last month. It's no interesting tickets.
No tickets Michael will let me do in the last month.
Apparently, you shouldn't blindly follow robots. Yeah, that's right. Field workers, I just want to do a shout out to all the guys who go on site, all the guys who climb up and rappel from the ceiling and go into walls and underneath buildings and up on roofs. I want to extend a big thank you to all those folks. I know they do a whole lot and they never get any credit, and they're often asked to do, just because they're there, asked to do work that is, you best be characterized as home housekeeping for them. So thank you to all those folks out there. We've done it. A few of us have done that before in the past, and it's a rough line of work, but you're never thanked. But I want to thank
Michael,
you.
what are you talking about? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Who knows?
RTM Tech. Did you install who crashed? What's who crashed, RTM Tech? Resplendence.com, who crashed?
What? I know that.
Is this what you're talking about?
Kick butt registry editor.
Who crashed? Who crashed version 5.5 with support for Windows 10? Interesting.
They also have a comprehensible crash dump analyzer.
Mm.
They have a number of tools I've been meaning to look into that I have to look into them.
Thank you for mentioning that, RTM Tech. Yeah, let's look into all these cool little products this apparently awesome company puts out. Yeah, no, it's okay, RTM Tech. John is deaf on one side as well, and I'm he always puts his headset. It's the one-sided one, so he puts it on the one ear that doesn't work when I'm talking. He flips it around.
I know. I just mute your ass. It is a pain in the butt, though. Which is why I don't have two, headphones. But it's also a pain in the butt because when you're trying to also hear things in your environment.
So, Futures Eric uses Blue Screen View in D72 and has been doing his research from there. And Shri has a question, D72 question. She's asking stress test for GPU. GPU Z includes, am I mistaken? Let me double check this. Where's GPU Z? Is it on my desktop? Oh, did that?
Is that in D72?
That didn't do good. Hold on. Sorry guys about that. Where's my okay, there it is. Alright, so yeah, if you hit the in GPU Z is completely free. Can you get a link to that, Brantley? Or
Well, did you miss the important part of her question? She said in D72.
No, no, I didn't miss that part, but I'm considering what we can do to add it. Yeah, Glenn, that's CPU Z, but GPU Z is what you want. It's where's GPU Z? I'll get the link. Fine. But I was thinking maybe we can add this because this can be, or at least it used to be, portable. It used to be portable. Anyway, if you hit the question mark on in that application, if you hit the question mark next to the bus interface for it, it will run a render test, which does put 100% load on the GPU. And so we can look into potentially adding that as a third-party app to D72 if their licensing is agreeable to that. There's also other GPU stress tests that could be relevant. I don't necessarily recommend running Furmark with the CPU bound graphics, just because if it is an issue, it's going to make it very, very hot, and I don't want it to permanently hurt anything. Now, modern CPUs should shut down, but I still worry about it sometimes. But Furmark is the other tool that I've been exposed to that really sets your GPU on fire. I mean, it makes it so hot that typically you would never have a real world case that it would make that hot, even if you're 100% load on the GPU. So I'm not exactly sure how they go about accomplishing that, but everybody who wants to typically test the absolute upper end of what their GPU will reach temperature-wise uses Furmark, in my experience. So I'll see. I don't know. I can't recall now, but
Yeah, Furmark's a really good stress test.
I just, again, word of warning though. I mean, it's gonna jump it up there, so be careful and watch the temperatures closely while you're
Have
running.
your marshmallows ready.
Yeah. And some people, I don't typically. It's more for benchmarking, but some people like to run certain, like the Unigine or Unigine products. I guess for benchmarks, if you're interested in that, and any of these that could be added. Almost all of these could be added to D7 too. But we'll investigate whether we can make them a part of the default apps and their licensing and things like that. Yeah,
What's that last link you posted, Michael?
Is that a right link? Yeah, so that's they have benchmarks.
Okay.
They're widely used in the industry: Valley, Heaven, Tropics, and Sanctuary. And first of all, they're beautiful. If you've ever seen them. Second, they stress out a lot of new parts of the graphics processors. But this is not so much for stress testing your chip, okay? And this will show off like all the new features of what they've added to graphics cards in the last, whatever. But it will, it's more of a visual and a benchmarking tool to see how well your video card handles modern graphics techniques. And it's also a game engine in and of itself, so anything that uses that engine will apparently you'll have good performance if you see good performance in the benchmarks, I think. So, but that's definitely probably not the first place you want to go for stress testing. But I kind of just like I said, if I need to put 100% load very, very quickly, minimally onto a GPU, I would highly recommend GPU-Z for that. It's my go-to for graphics info, and it's constantly updated to support every new graphics card that comes out.
Michael, I can't believe you skipped over this passively cooled AirTop PC.
Post a link. Oh, for Onyx, yay! I like Onyx.
A high-end PC, I think it was saying they would sell for a couple $1,000s, but has no fans at all, and it self-cools.
Oh, look at that. Wow, and that's a pretty fast processor and reasonably fast graphics. I mean, that's mid-range graphics card, I would say, but definitely enough to do some 1080p gaming. It's interesting, yeah, for the cooling aspect of it. Again, I don't like to be limited by airflow, but I did a lot of good testing on it. It seems to support their
It's all passive cooling.
Yeah.
It's probably the most powerful passively cooled machine that I've looked at recently.
So apparently either side, I'm watching the video that they have on there, either side of the case has 14 air tubes, and as the air inside the tubes heats up from the electronics and such, the heat automatically rises out of the top, and the bottom is pulling in cool air because heat rises, cool air is at the bottom. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, very interesting design. I imagine you could.
One of the problems that smaller form factor computers have always had is cooling.
Yeah.
Well,
they're saying usually the most that you can pull out of a passive cooling setup is about 20 watts, but their system's able to pull 200 watts. So
wow.
As far, yeah, that is impressive. But the future, the next step, when chips are going to eventually get to the point where there's not going to be enough surface area for them to dissipate their heat, they're going to have active cooling built within the chips itself, using some pretty advanced techniques. But it would be literally there would be venting the chip itself, like as part of its construction and fabrication. I don't have a link for that, but that was a story I was reading a while back.
Well, maybe without active cooling, maybe the dust bunnies won't take up so quickly.
Oh, come on, folks. You got any other questions out there? Futures crew, come on. Yeah. And have you tried out any of those tools? I think you'll love them, by the way. And if you have any feedback, or if you have, oh, I tried it and I don't think it's as good as this or that, let me know. But those are near and dear to my heart. And we're always looking for tools, as we've said in the past. And again, thanks for sharing the Resplendence link with us.
So, I've linked that before on the show, Michael. You just never pay attention. It's been a bit, though. But...
Okay, well, Eric, look, please let us know how where this goes. So look into those the temperature power supply issues.
CPU-Z is in D7.2. We'll look into adding GPU-Z, but you should be able to pretty easily add it to as a custom app.
Yeah, but as you mentioned earlier, Blue Screen View. Love Blue Screen View, certainly, but that's probably not gonna. It's not gonna help you with a hardware issue, as in the overheating or the power supply. But what you'll need to focus on again is temperature monitoring tools, and I think. Oh, let me get you a link. If you weren't listening earlier, I believe I can provide a link for that Intel's Extreme tweaking utility. Intel Extreme.
Ian, we actually talked about that. What happens when you dare expert hackers to hack you on yesterday's show, and it is a pretty interesting video. And the main thing to pull from it is risk assessment. Are you actually at risk? Again, my favorite quote from it was, there are millions of martial art professionals out there that could attack you walking down the street any day, but how worried are you about them attacking you?
If you don't have a target on your back, don't put one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eric, you can open up that Extreme tuning utility, and that should work with that CPU that you have. And it will report the temperatures and all the information, pretty much about everything. And it's got cool little graphs, and don't know again about its ability to log. I don't think it actually has login. Let me see.
Missing a doctor's appointment.
I don't think that it has logging, unfortunately, but you know, it probably won't take you too long with the stress test to determine whether or not the heat is the actual issue or whether or not it's a power supply issue. Um,
Yeah, Ian,
so
it's not a problem. I was just saying if you want to hear us talk more about it in depth, we did spend a little bit of time on it yesterday.
is so the Extreme 10 utility that needs to be installed to work. Now CPU-Z doesn't monitor temperatures. It's what's a good one? Let me see. I used to use one called. We've talked about this in the past. I used one called Core Temp, and that should probably work today. And that's maybe another good one that could possibly be added to D7.2. Now, this guy's been release candidate 8 forever, but it seems to work. It seems to pull the information from the on-die temperature, and it works. So I've used it, and I can say I'm pleased with it. And actually, no, I take that back. Maybe it was at RC6 last time I looked at it. RC8 was released on the February 21st, 2016, and it explicitly supports Windows 10 and updates some things with the display. Anyway, that's probably a good one, I think. But there's not any internalized functionality of D7.2 that would do any of this. It's going to be through the third-party app framework. And we will, again, consider evaluating all of these and making these default apps if the licensing and their policy or their, the value is there. Did Proctor, did you or anyone else have any input on tools for those purposes? It sounds like Eric needs, as much assistance as he can get.
I think I've said everything that I had to say.
Okay.
That Michael hasn't rambled on about already.
Goodness, man.
I was being nice.
Yeah, Glenn, that is a good point there. There was a really funny TED talk about replying to spam.
Oh, I love that. Did you
a
post
spiral
it?
there. No.
I'm gonna repost it. There we go. This is what happens when you reply to spam.
But exactly, if you just ignore the spam messages, you're less likely to get more spam and scams than you do if you reply. Because replying means that your email address is valid. Someone's actually looking at those emails.
Who's doing that?
Be doing more of it.
Who's been doing that? Does Michael do that?
No, Glenn had a client that would send dirty reply messages to all the spam and scam emails.
We had an employer that would do it.
You did? Really? He did?
You did too.
He did? What the hell?
Yes, he did. The one's name started with Sean.
Started with Sean.
He used to reply to those messages and request that they remove him. Stuff like that, just all kind of stuff. And then he'd get mad sometimes, and then finally, like one day, I was like, "Do you not realize what you're doing?" No, I didn't say dummy. I said much worse.
Glenn, that's a good point there. Glenn advises his clients not to open, I'm assuming, suspicious attachments, and in Outlook do not enable downloads of pictures. A lot of the way that they tried to circumvent the spam filters is by embedding, obviously images and communicating information that way. And turning that off will prevent a user from, getting socially engineered into doing the bad guys' biddings.
Well, recently I posted a link on the torturous conditions that robots have to endure, and looks like it's still going on.
Oh no!
More mammals are torturing robots. This one, humans got a dog to just sit there and bark. Probably scared the death out of this robot. They had no idea what to do, where to go. See those kind of things.
Come on, take him, dog. Fido.
Oh man, are you kidding me? I haven't been sipping on this coffee the whole show. At least it wasn't yesterday's coffee, Projector.
Also, there is a interesting video about kinetic sculptures, and these are really cool. But man, the price tag he got on some of those, like 70,000 to 250,000. Don't think I'll be getting a kinetic sculpture anytime soon.
Connect what?
Yeah.
Zombie, you've been quiet. How long have you been with us? Zombie's in the chat. I didn't notice when he got in.
Zombie, we had a big pie talk at the beginning of the show, so go back and watch that later.
Definitely, it was good.
Hmm.
We had a little pie rant.
All right, well, we've met our hour time limit for the day.
Dang, we're at the end.
Yeah, do we want to wrap up earlier, or has anybody else got anything else they want to talk
Please.
about?
Please.
Oh crap! I have a link from yesterday actually.
Oh, go for
Let me
it.
get my coffee and I'll come up there. It's a shout out to the late Jerry Lawson, who
Oh yeah.
we just ended the shortest month of the year, Black History Month, and it's fair to point out that there are people other than the few that I heard about growing up in school, and there are those in tech. And Jerry Lawson is basically the reason why video games started coming in cartridges. And
Oh, I thought you were talking about Gary Larson, not okay.
No, I saw that one too.
yeah.
Can you have a link? Can you?
I'm coming. I think it was ARS Technica or something. I read that.
Was it? Yeah, I love that site.
I've been thinking about subscribing to them actually.
You know what? If that would be a site I would subscribe to. I'm not a big fan of paywalling stuff, but a subscription. Yeah, I could. They have content that I think is worth it. That justifies a reasonable subscription. Okay.
He was the creator of the Fairchild Channel F console. Just before right, this was introduced right after the thing that was it Pong or something. He started tinkering with it, but I'll have to read. Oh, I just found the link.
Ours?
But
Was it certainly ours?
yeah, there it is. But it was his game console was actually a competitor to the Atari 2600 before it was rebranded as the Atari 2600. And then I think later he went to work for Atari or something for a while, or did something there.
Oh, awesome link, man. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually an awesome story. I had no idea. So when you think about black people and tech, especially from a historical standpoint. Yeah. So. passing that around.
RTM Tech sent me a PM of the robot abuse story if y'all want to read into that. I missed it on our last show.
Of the what?
The robot abuse.
Oh, yeah.
We had posted before.
Oh, I wanted to throw this out there. It's just as long as I had ARS Technica up, they have the series on Apple's encryption battle with the feds, and I wanted to throw that out there too. That should tag everything on there. It's there's a lot of interesting things going on there with the back and forths.
A judge recently released a paper siding with Apple on it.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's the other thing, the late Supreme Court justice who would definitely be for that too.
Here's another link related to that.
And he's absolutely correct in what he said. That justice, whatever the quote that's going around, that's absolutely right. Or I don't know if the quote's right, but the sentiment is to me. I agree with it 100%. Sometimes that's what the law does, or Constitution or whatever. It has to let a few slide to protect everybody sometimes, and that means encryption too. I mean, if you were the bad guys.
Is he just drooling out puke, Johnny?
Oh God. Oh, what?
No, he's not drooling out puke.
Oh no.
He's got some milk in his mouth.
Has my video been off this whole time?
Are they waterproof? My mom wants to know if you guys are waterproof.
Not at all. Oh, and
all those buttons, baby.
What?
I was telling the baby not to push all the buttons.
He can't push any buttons. He can't reach them. Brantley.
What were you going to say, John? Or Nick, sorry.
I was going to throw in an article, link on vaping. California Republican senator actually comes out and says, yes, I vape and don't stop. You'll piss me off.
There's one congressperson that was vaping in Congress.
And here's another. Remember that popcorn lung thing you were hearing about?
Oh, yes.
That's supposed to be bad for vapors.
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently the thing that causes that, there's 750 times that in a cigarette. So. Also, no one, like, popcorn lung is not like a big thing for cigarette smokers, apparently. So
only if you were working in a popcorn factory making popcorn back before.
That's kind of how it got its name now, isn't it?
Yeah, before the regulations were put in place to prevent this type of thing.
But that chemical is not present in all juice, but it is present in some e-juice and in some forms, and
yeah.
no one.
And it's certain flavors. It's certain very specific flavors.
It's a flavoring, yes. Yeah.
So I think it's in the, what was it, in the bubblegum and cinnamon flavorings or something like that?
It just said fruit.
One of them.
And fruit and sweet and anything not
sweet?
tobacco.
It's just about everything then.
Yeah.
Jiffy Pop safe? Jiffy Pop is safe? I don't know.
Hey, though,
the jury's out on
Kraft mac and cheese, they're using that yellow number, whatever. They just came out with something bad about again. One of those yellow colorings or something that kills you.
Number 5.
Keep using that, and it's weird, and it's weird and funny because we were actually looking at it because we like the powdered mac and cheese for some reason. Both Jade and I, and it's like our secret love of powdered mac and cheese. And the problem is that it like some of the boxes have the yellow food coloring in them, and then some do not. They have some I don't know what the difference is, and we were looking at like this, what we thought was the same. They like the boxes looked physically different, but one of them looked like it was like a special series edition or whatever, limited time design kind of thing on the box. But but both boxes were different and stuff, so we quit buying the craft shit anyway. Both. It was just very confusing, and that stuff's going to kill everyone who eats it now. so don't. It's bad for you.
Let alone the metal objects they've been having to recall for.
Well, and the other thing I dig is ramen noodles, and I take the ramen noodles and I don't make them like soup. I do boil them, and then I strain them and just throw in a buttload of butter, melted butter, and that I mix with.
It's not ramen.
with the spicy stuff. Well, the relevance is that they have metal shards apparently, craft. But one time when I was younger, much younger,
shards.
I spent about 15 years not eating ramen noodles because one time when I was younger, I cracked one open as I was breaking them up to put them in the pot, which I didn't always do. And I was breaking one open, and there was a dried, crusty Band-Aid in the middle of the brick of noodles, and I think I almost vomited or did. I don't know, but I didn't eat them for like 10 or 15 years after that.
Listen, I think RTM Tech would make a great comedian, and his joke was, "Is Jiffy Pop safe? Only if you don't inhale." I think that's ha ha ha. I mean, come on, that's a beautiful joke.
That is a good joke.
So, props to you, RTM Tech, and Glenn, don't be so hard on him.
I had a funny joke the other day I made up, like a funny. What I made up? I can't remember now, though. Oh, well.
Start a game with Johnny, Glenn says. Oh, for the pitcher. Yeah, the kid, the baby, yeah. All right, so if there's nothing else, folks, I think we're going to wrap it up. Is that correct?
RTM Tech sent me another one.
Oh.
Top OPM Tech official resigns under pressure. This link. The top 10 technology office official at the federal agency hit by massive attacks last summer.
Yeah. Nobody's doing a good job of cybersecurity. There's like 5 people in the entire country working on cybersecurity. I think for us, there's like 5 or 15. Or there should be hundreds or thousands. But God forbid the government would spend the money we give them on the things.
Hey, and I had a small follow up to the other thing I was talking about, the popcorn alone with the smoke and vaping. Is that the one? Yeah, was that the peer review one? I think that was the peer review one. Yeah. So some dude just got a Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs thing that he made in a random text generator published in 17 medical journals.
Yeah, that was very disturbing to me.
It's disturbing that so much of the and there was another one, and I guess I got rid of that link. I guess I already lost it.
Review is the only solution to these types of things.
But there was another one and they were supposedly doing that, and there was another one that was about the chocolate. Oh God, the chocolate weight loss thing with the diet industry. That someone else got like another thing published that like eating a chocolate bar a day with an Atkins diet would increase the weight loss or something, and it made all these news articles and everywhere, and it went on for months before someone said that's wrong. They use like in that particular, in the chocolate one, gosh, I wish I hadn't lost the link. They actually used actual data. They did an actual study and used real data to produce the result. But it was just to show you how you can fuck with statistics, ultimately, and how you can get shit in the news.
On a lighter note,
makes you so all of these things just make you like want to believe the things that you read even more. Oh, but there was a journal and a scientific article.
But if you do have a well-respected peer-reviewed journal, typically they wouldn't be.
Yeah, and they still all rely, and no, even the well-respected ones. Like, I don't know if it was this guy or what. One of the articles I was reading in some of this stuff I was using the other day.
It's always self-published. I mean, you could
self-publish
your own
like
scientific studies.
All you need is $500, even in respected journals. You just.
No, but that doesn't guarantee that they'll.
It doesn't guarantee it, but there's a good chance.
Oh, like anything else, when you start throwing money at the problem,
there's a good chance that because no one's going to actually verify what you're really doing.
RTM Tech asked, did we mention that the Arizona Supreme Court in Pima County was hit with a ransomware attack earlier this week?
No, I didn't see that story.
Hang on. And Michael, it's all because of the p-value that they use for statistical significance. In the scientific method, you have to the p-value is a completely fucked system, and if you do some reading on that, and all of you, even your peer-reviewed things, and they'll all look at that, and then they'll look at the data, and they'll go, okay, they're right, but because of the p-value, you can grossly distort the truth, essentially.
I'll have to look into that.
All right, now who was hit by what?
This sounds important.
The Superior Court.
I've got their homepage. Let's see. What? Do you got a link on that?
I have a semblance of one.
And yes, Glenn, there is a link for that random generator, and I think it was in that article. Randomtextgenerator.com. Try that anyway. I don't know if that does like.
Arizona court hit with ransomware attack. SC Magazine. What's a good link? Tucson.com. It's a good link.
I already posted a link that talks about it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
But there was something else I read this morning, and we talked a little bit about. But there's a CTB locker.
Oh yes, that
hits. It's written in PHP, and it encrypts all files on web server directories. So be careful about those out there.
Specifically targeting web servers. That's interesting. Those folks that maintain the sites, if it's compromised by something like that, they'll probably have a good little bit of money that they could fork over to them. But I again hope that no one ever pays the ransom. If this problem will ever go away, it will be because people uniformly all agree to not ever pay a ransom again. And they're never holding a family member of yours, gonna hang them or something like that. I mean, this is terrorism.
Yeah, because not negotiating with terrorists has been an excellent policy and has stopped all terrorism, hasn't it?
Absolutely, but they still negotiate, because they still end up giving into the negotiations. But that's hostage negotiations. Okay, there's the difference when you start to bring actual life into the equation. But as far as ransomware, people's data, this is there's a monetary value associated with it, and that's what they're hoping on, I'd imagine. Oh, what is this? What is this? Frank Herbert, H.P. Lovecraft? What is that link? Futures? Eric, what is that link?
Maintaining relational databases.
written by Frank Herbert, Isaac Asimov, H.P. Lovecraft, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Not all of those people lived during the appropriate times for even allow collaboration like that to occur.
I think he's posting a point about the unreliability of those things.
It's a great example, yeah. It's a great example of that. I see that, yeah. That's cute. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. What is... Glenn.
So Glenn posted one of the science paper generators.
Ah, that's what that is that Eric posted.
Thank you, thank you.
And you also notice there's one for math papers as well.
Yeah, that's the one that Eric posted. It's the same one.
Oh, and RTM Tech did send me that link, and I found it at the same time on Google.
We're on spot today.
So, we've made some made some big steps forward, I think, with Crypto Prevent, right? Any updates on that?
Have you gotten any of the testing done?
Yeah.
Because we spent a long time talking about testing that was worthless.
No, but I got all the other testing done too. I confirmed all of the other things were resolved, except for what I had mentioned in the list. So
that's about the Dropbox integration.
No. Sorry, that was the one I didn't test because I don't have a Dropbox. Let me look at that list one more time. Just to I can't. That's not good. I can't do that. That's not good. I can't do that.
Yeah, don't pull that up while we're. All right, well, let's get back to work on that. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today and providing us with all this awesome stuff.
Excuse me.
Anyway, we will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m.
Yep. Wednesday, yeah.
We hope to see you all there, and we'll have some delightful talks again. And we will see you all then. So. Bye, Internet. Sell reality.
Hi, Internet.
Hi, Internet.